Hey, welcome back to Mocktails with Marina. I'm your host, Marina, and today we've got the father and son team behind Tea Time Drinks here to discuss CPGs, kratom, and its context to today's NA beverage space. There's a lot to unpack and uncover, and I am so excited to dive right in. So let's just do it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
excited. We're excited for this.
Yay! Well, tell us the founding story. Who are you, and why do you even want to make these awesome drinks in the first place?
So the story is my name's Brandon. It's my dad, Steve, and I've been going to the kava bars for a number of years. Big fan of kratom. I don't drink alcohol anymore. When I found kratom, I slowly got off of alcohol, and oh, my bad. So big fan of kratom, and I was at a bar one day, and I was drinking another seltzer, and it was like an epiphany. I was just like, how hard could it be to make this drink? And
It was a lot harder than we thought.
a lot harder than we thought. But like that was
Sure.
the original like light bulb that went off. And like that very night, I was already looking things up next day, and like we just haven't stopped since. And brought the idea to my dad, and it took some convincing because he wasn't a big fan of kratom at first. He's very sensitive to it. So his first time he ever had kratom,
Wasn't a good one.
yeah. So it took some
So
convincing, and now he came on board, and we just rock and roll now.
a year and a half later, we're in over 200 stores, and like he said, we're just rocking and rolling.
Still majority just me and him, doing a lot of guerrilla marketing, and we're getting some distributors now and some wholesalers, and things are going. His motto is
Slow and steady wins the race.
yep.
That's a
Yep.
good lesson.
Oh yeah.
One
Yep.
I know I need to be reminded of often. And I think it's so cool that you guys are doing not only doing this together, but you're doing this in a way that creates a product that is genuinely one of the best I've ever experienced in this market. So I would love to learn a little bit more about what the process was like for you guys to formulate, especially like you guys have never formulated anything before this product, correct? Like this was your first CPG you've ever made.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, so
Yep.
what was that like for you?
in the beginning, I'm not gonna say Brandon was trying to make it at home, and it was horrible.
Terrible.
It
It
was just
was
horrible.
terrible.
So while he's trying to, create the perfect drink, I'm out there trying to find a machine to can it, and that's how we came across a local co-packer here. They had the machine that I wanted to purchase. So they're like, come down and check out the machine, blah blah blah. So we did, and as we walked in, they doing kratom runs. I'm like, what? You do kratom runs? So long story short, they were able to formulate our drink for us, and we had everything made there. And that's how the kratom part started, the drink. But then, making the label and the can design, that was a whole nother.
That was a whole nother project.
Yeah.
And we launched about a year and a half ago, March 2022, and we had that company make can our drink and formulate it. There's a lot of taste testing that went involved, and like add a little bit of this, take a little bit of this away. But when we launched, we got a lot of feedback on like just problems we were having with the recipe. A lot of people were saying it was too sweet. It was kind of syrupy, and every batch we did, we took the feedback and tried making adjustments, and it got to a point where we found a different co-packer, and they recommended us to like an actual like chemist R&D guy, and he formulated what we have now, and it's what we have now, and we've done a lot better. People are loving the new formula, and we got rid of the thickness, so it's more seltzery. You don't taste any kratom. No, you don't taste. It tastes like you're drinking a Fanta when you're drinking the orange flavor.
Yeah, it's really good. Really good.
It's so good that okay, so I'm very sensitive to kratom as well. I love it. I consume it almost daily. And I always try a bunch of products and I understand like, okay, well, kratom, kind of tastes bad if you're not used to it. And especially if it's an extract form, like, you're used to people kind of serving it with a lot of just stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it
Exactly.
other than it usually feels like a thicker drink, not like a smoothie, but like you can tell that they had to add a bunch of syrup and stuff to make it taste good. Your formulation is so light. And, I live in the desert, and in the desert, we are super dry. There's no point in drinking anything harmful out here because you're hungover before you can even enjoy it. But this didn't even, like, there was no headache, no irritability. I had nothing negative. I didn't have the like parched mouth. And I especially love that the kratom extract that you use doesn't leave that like film taste or feeling in the mouth. So I am so curious for you, how many different types of kratom did you have to sample to find the right one and the right formula? That must have been very difficult.
That was definitely a project. Because it was like three things you had to get right. It had to dissolve. You had to obviously get a good feeling because there's bad kratom, not the best kratom out there, and then you had to also no flavor, and that was also just as hard. And we have like a bin and we still get like samples of different extracts from different companies, and we just have this bin of all this kratom extract. Like we could probably open up our own kratom store of all this kratom extract we have, I swear.
Yeah.
And just samples of trying different things, and that was I would say equally, if not harder, to find the right kratom than it was to get the flavor and the taste right.
Yeah, because you would get kratom, we try it, we get no feeling. We get kratom and try it, be nasty with our drink. It was a project. It
Yeah.
really was. But we found it and we rolled with it.
Yep.
So, and our R&D guy is amazing. I got to tell you that.
Yeah.
Our new R&D guy, the way he formulated this new formula, he did an amazing job.
There wasn't really much like with our original formula. We did so many taste testings of tweakings and all this stuff, and I mean it was like the first sample he gave us, we could have rode with it. It was so good.
Aw.
We made a couple of tweaks, but like we could have ran with it and did just as fine.
Right.
Like he just knows what to do. It's great. He's a magician. He's our secret weapon, we call him.
Yeah.
Man,
Yep.
it really takes finding the right team to get a project like this done. And I think I always like to commend anybody in the CPG space, but especially people in the CPG space who make products that I know I'm a lifestyle drinker of kratom. So like when I find and kava as well, but like when I find like products, like I get stuck on them. Like, of course I'll keep trying because it's my job to keep trying them. But like when it comes to what I drink after hours, like tea time is always high on my list of like, man, I really just want to drink this right now.
Well, thank
So
you.
yeah, and I think that just speaks to the amount of care that you put into the product because you didn't have to find that better teammate to help you make that better formula, but you did because you wanted to make a genuinely good product. You weren't just seeing a gap in the market and being like, oh, here's money that we can be making from this. Now, that being said, there's different business styles in the non-alc space, right? You've got the brick and mortar, which is like a very different type of setup than a CPG, right? Because you guys spent like what you said years, a year and a half to get your formula, right?
Yeah, about yeah. I mean, to the
Yeah,
formula we have now, it honestly took probably like 2 years. I
two
said I
years.
said March 22 earlier. It's March 23 we started, but the idea came in like August of 22
Yep.
or 23. 22.
22.
August 22 is when I had the idea. And
Yeah.
that's when all the formulation and stuff started.
Yeah, and that's like so to see something take that time behind the scenes, like you're investing this time, you're investing this money, you're investing resources to create something that's not even going to like give you an ROI right away. That's very different from other types of revenue streams that people set up in the non-alc space, right? Now, brick and mortars, of course, they take time too if you have to set up, like if you have to do some architectural design and get things all constructed in there. But for the most part, you know, there's just more time, is what I'm trying to say here. And so that being said, now you're on the other side of the formulation. You are in 200 stores, which is so cool. So all of that being said, when you look back at day one what would you just love to sit down and tell that team and say, "Hey guys, here's how you could avoid some headaches," or "Here's how you could really enjoy this process more."
Honestly, if I were to tell day one, I would tell myself to like R&D at first was like we did a lot of taste testing, but I wish we had other people we could have like that offered or we talked to about making our drink. I wish I just spent the money and got a recipe from all of them and like was able to try like everything worked out at the end. So I'm honestly kind of glad it went this route. We probably wouldn't have found the R&D guy we have now, but I wish I did try different because it was like we had fans on our original formula. People liked it, but there were a lot that didn't. And it was a year of like straight hustling and like a lot of no's in stores. You know what I mean? Like that's the one thing I tell myself day one. I would have changed.
Hmm. Not rushing, which just goes right back to Steve's famous saying over here, right? Slow and steady
Yep.
wins the way,
Yep.
wins the
Exactly.
race.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the and thing is, like, there's a lot of passion in tea time. Like, there's a lot of sentimental value. There's, I mean, we aren't rich. You know what I mean? Like, he's manager at a poker room. I dealt cards in the poker room. Like, we all of our eggs are in this basket. Like, there's like this is our baby, and um, I forgot where I was gonna go with it, but I was gonna go somewhere with it. The logo and the name Tea Time. So I had the idea August 22, May 22. My older brother passed away, and he when he before he passed away, he would put a bendy straw in a Corona and like bend the top of the straw and slam it, and he'd call it tea time. And so when he passed, like my cousin was gonna had a baby, like at his like memorial thing we had for him. We all did tea times, like it was like a celebratory thing we started doing. And so when we're making the drink, my girlfriend actually thought of it. We're trying to figure out a name. She's like, tea time would be perfect because kratom's brewed as a tea. And if you look at our logo, it's like bendy straws that make a tea.
So basically, it's all wrapped behind my oldest son. So that's why there's a lot of sentimental value behind the whole brand.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
That's such a sweet story about the creating something in memorial for a very loved family member. I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'm so grateful that you are here to share the story. And, when we think about tea time in general, I feel like before I even got to meet you guys, before I even got to hear the story, like tea time is such a precious thing, right? Like it's no matter like what context you're in, when you hear tea time, it automatically sets a scene. It automatically, if I were to just tell you, "Hey, have you heard of tea time?" Like the first thing people think of, is it's not when you look at other brands, for example, they give you different feelings with the different names
Yeah.
that come out, right? My brain always loves to give equal and opposite examples right away. So it's like liquid death. Like that's like a frightening, like that's coming at me like this demon water, right? Like I'm like, but like tea time, like it's precious. Like it gives me a different feeling. And honestly, um, you know, when I left the whole like employment world behind and I wanted to, do this consultation with my husband, I had a really hard time with that transition at first, not because I missed having a boss, but because I really loved my team. Like I loved my team so much to the point where like I put myself through some stupid situations just to try to make sure that they were like set up and okay.
Mhm.
And when I would meet my main management team, I would meet with all of them on a weekly basis. And when we called it meetings, everyone like they'd get burnt out. So I was like, you guys, we're no longer, there's no such thing as meetings anymore in this company. It's called tea time. We're just having tea time. We're just hanging out. I'm just trying to see how you doing. Like bring tea. You're gonna bring some tea to the meeting. We're gonna
That's
drink it. We're gonna have a
hilarious.
good time. Yeah, and it changed the entire morale of the staff. Like, because not only did it help the managers, because then they were like their nervous system became more regulated. We would, during tea time, we would help them prioritize their tasks for the week. We'd be like, okay, so what tasks did I assign you? What tasks did Big Boss Man assign you? Like, what can I do to help you make this all make sense? And so by the end, everyone's laughing, feeling good. And so they would get out of that meeting and then they would interact with, say, the kava tenders or the other customers around. And we literally saw a 26% rise in sales, like
Oh wow, that's
overall.
crazy.
Yeah, like, and it was month after month. We were breaking records not only from last year to that year, but it was also from month to month. So it was like we were feeling so energetically like just excited and all together. And when that time ended for my husband and I, and we were like, okay, we need to move on to our next project, and all of our original teams, like, it was just that moment in the sitcom where everyone goes their different directions. They all happen to get opportunities at around the same time, right? And so as that kind of process was happening, I was really like sad and I had a hard time. So I'd reached out and I was like, hey, like, do you guys still want to maybe have tea time? And so to this day, on my calendar, anytime it says tea time, that is me connecting with like the people that fill my cup. In, not only, of course, we help each other, but those are the ones that are like, these are my soul tribe people. And so anytime I have a meeting with y'all and I see tea time on my calendar, I'm instantly brought to this just special place of just like, I'm just with my people. We're just drinking some tea. So I love the name and I love the story behind it. It's brilliant.
Thank you,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
thank you.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
we only started with what 5,000 cans was our first order. That was a little over a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
and we just did basically an 80,000 can run within 3 weeks.
Whoa, nice.
Yeah, so we're growing. We 10x the company the first year, and we're looking to do the same thing this year. If everything keeps going in the direction it's going, we're definitely going to 10x it again this year. So we're getting there. Tea Time is going to be a brand, and everyone's going to know about us.
Yay. That's
Yep.
amazing. And I'm curious because I have a container inside of the Modern Mocktail. We have a container called Discovery Phase Launchpad. And inside of that container, we host people who have not started any non-alc venture yet, but they're curious and they're just like, I've never done anything like this before. What's going on? And one of the biggest questions that we are constantly asked is, oh my God, well, I'm too broke and I don't have enough time to get this going. And so we talk about funding a lot in there and how, first off, there's different funding types, there's different reasons for different funding types. There's also plenty that could be available, but they could also be a trap if accidentally choose the wrong one that does not align with your brand. So all of that being said, you guys mentioned you put all of your chips, all of your everything, all of your eggs in this basket, which is so exciting and adventurous. I'm
Yep.
curious, you know, because there are plenty of opportunities, plenty of other funding paths, why did you choose to keep it in the family and just with you guys and not like have this other big team of random outsiders helping you?
Well, my main reason is because behind the brand name is my son Jordan that passed away, and so I don't need somebody coming in here and trying to change something that's just so like valuable to our family. So, and it's just me and my son. So, and I like it that way. We get to choose what we want to do, how we want to do it, and and we do all the hard work, and so we have because we do all the hard work we deserve to make all the changes and the saves and
Like we still like we're in all these stores there. I mean, we still go up to Tampa and do deliveries to every store. We still take a weekend and go to a new city and do guerrilla marketing and go door to door. Like we don't really hire. We're starting to hire people that like help with taste tests and stuff. But when I say we still do 90% of everything, we still do 90% of everything. Just me and him.
Yeah.
And
And I enjoy my drives up to Tampa with him. It's just
yeah,
me and him, so I get a lot of bonding time.
it's fun. It's
Yeah.
fun. So
Aw.
we don't want someone coming in and I put up all this money. You got to do
Yeah.
this and
Trying to change
that.
things or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we put all our money, into tea time. And uh, one advice I could tell anybody that starts a business is you fail the day you quit.
Yeah.
So don't if you once you start something, continue it. Don't stop because that's when you fail. It's the day you say, "Oh man, I'm done. I can't do this no more," and then you lose all the money you put into it. So that's one thing we do. We're never gonna stop. We're never.
Hmm.
We're hoping one day we're everywhere. And for me, him, I have two younger sons too. The three of them could just run the business. So we're gonna keep it in the family. No
Building a
investment.
legacy.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Yep. So, but yeah, that's something I could tell anybody, like I said, don't ever quit. Even if you got to start small like we did. Like I mentioned earlier, we started with only 5,000 cans, 2,500 of each flavor because we only had two flavors. Now we have four. We're running 80,000 can runs a year and a half later. And that's just us going out door to door, making phone calls, emails, whatever we had to do to get to where we are today. It's because of Brandon and I.
And that 5,000 cans was actually kind of a lot for us because our original, at least my original plan was I was going to make it in the kitchen. I was going to get a single like can press, start at one kava bar. As soon as sales pick up, we could do more cans. Let's go to another bar. Like that's how slow and like small I was going to start with this.
Man, that's so cool. I love this story because, again, we go back to this theme of like by not rushing and by really being diligent with this process and just being present with it, you were able to find the opportunity. You were able to like bootstrap it and really actually break through the glass ceilings that I believe are highly mental for a lot of people. So a lot of people when they get scared or anxious in business and they're like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm just going to outsource everything because I don't feel in control of this, that, or the other." And before they know it, they've given away control and power of the company and they never got to those like dark night of the soul moments where, yeah, it's really hard, but that's where we come out on the other side. And we've, not only changed ourselves on the process, but we've actually made an impact on the market. And something that's important to note is you guys are not the first kratom seltzer out there at all, right? There's plenty of other brands that have come before you, but that doesn't matter. Like I literally,
Honestly, I think there was only one that I knew of. I think there was only one, maybe two that came out before us, at least that I know of. Now there's so many. Another one came out. I found out today.
Yeah.
So
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. I should mention that, in Florida, you guys have all gotten to experience tea time a lot longer than the rest of the country has.
Yeah.
But that being said, there's, for example, White Rabbit. When that first came out and it like I'd received my first sample of it, I was like, cool, an actual other option out there that's not just the one other one we have in the fridge. And so it was one of those situations where it felt like we had to like it. Like it was like, you have to like this because there's nothing else out there. And and now there are options and I don't even remember some of the other options because, like I mentioned, once I found tea time, I'm like, oh well, I'm done looking. Like
I
I
think what
found what I
separates
needed.
us from the rest is that because it's only me and Brandon, we listen to everybody. We listen to
Yeah.
all the feedback. So, and we're able to make the changes to improve our drink, to improve our brand. So, we don't have, I don't even know the word I'm looking for, but we're not out there that big that we have like me and him and then like 200 people behind us working for us. Where by the time it gets to the chain to us, it's going to get lost. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
complaint, whatever. So I think that's what makes us different than the bigger companies. That when somebody complains, which we don't ever hardly get anymore since we changed the formula. And the only complaint they had is was too sweet. But anyhow, whenever we get some, concerns or comment or anything, we see it. We respond to it as owners, not as a worker. So, I think that makes a big difference when it comes to like customer service and really, talking to our customers and, wholesalers and distros. So when people have a concern and they send an email, I'm reading it or Brandon's reading it. We don't have, an assistant to the assistant to the assistant reading it. So yeah, I think that's what makes us, better than the rest, honestly.
Yeah, it's true. There have been plenty of occasions where, I'd be receiving samples as, just menu decision maker of the company. And I'd be like, okay, well, I'd fall in love with certain products that like they tasted good or like had great packaging and branding and ingredients. And, that whole process would just be we'd be like, okay, let's do this. I'd finally get everyone on board and like all the things, and then reach out to customer service, and there's either crickets or uh some sort of weird communication that's not quite clear. And
This
that's
is
been something that's been great with you guys. You guys are really great at communication.
so with customer service, let me tell you this. So it's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm in bed watching TV and we get an email about some order that wasn't delivered or whatever. This is 10 o'clock at night. I come downstairs, I get on the computer and I handle it right then and there. And the lady was so happy. She's like one of my major like online sales now. Her name is Maggie and she's from Texas. And she orders like crazy. She emails me back and forth now. We go, all because I handled that situation right then and there. She was amazed. So
Mm.
this is the type of customer service you get with Tea Time. So I had to throw that out there because I just remember that. And Maggie, she's like I said, our best online customer.
Oh, shout out to Maggie.
Oh, let's
So,
do a shout out to Red Rum. All right, so
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
let's
yay.
yeah. So our Texas guy, our regional sales guy out in Texas, his name is Benny Swiss. This is how I met him. Brandon was 8. How old was Jordan? Jordan was like, I don't know,
What's the age
16.
difference?
I can't remember the age
Yeah.
difference, but Jordan lived in Jersey and I lived in Connecticut with Brandon. Real long story short, they got an Xbox and they were playing Xbox together. And I'm like, this is cool. How are you going to play Xbox and talk to each other and play? So I bought myself an Xbox so I could play with my kids. And so then when they weren't on, I played by myself. And sure enough, I started playing with this guy. His name was Redmo. This was 18 plus years ago. And for that 18 years, we've played just about, I would say, at least 4 nights a week, every day for 18 years to this day. And, throughout that time, we did some small ventures, nothing big. And when I started Tea Time, I'm like, hey, Red. I call him Red. His name is Benny, but I call him Red. I say, hey, Red, you ever hear Kratom? He's like, no. So I'm starting this business, man. I said, look it up in Texas, see if you got any kava bars. He goes, what's kava? What's kava bar? So long story short, he's out there and he's got 50, 60 stores, maybe more.
Yeah, he's crushing it.
Yeah.
It's just him out there.
Yeah, it's just him by himself.
Yeah.
And he's doing his thing out there. And he just got a distro, 2 of them now out in Texas. And that's how I met him, which is funny because was it like 7 months into the business? Brandon and I flew out to Texas. That's the first time I met him face to face. And
pretty much a business partner
yeah,
now.
Pretty much. He flew down here when we launched when we got the orange flavor. He flew down here and he helped launch the orange flavor. And like I say, he's pretty much a business partner. So it's a pretty crazy story there.
That's the coolest story. I was wondering, I'm like, I know y'all are based in Florida doing all the things, but also I know you're in Texas too. So to see the connection is super cool. I love it. Love the story. And, it just goes to show like, I remember being a kid that back when MySpace was still cool. And that was like my first taste of like getting to know people like that weren't in front of you, like digital friends, right? And to this day, it's crazy because, you go through life, you go through all the onion layers of things. Maybe you change careers, maybe there's different interests that you pick up. But over time, the people that you meet online who align with these like interests and things, it's just so cool to see how over time, like you never know the potential of working with people, but if you focus on that just awesome connection and that heartfelt passion, and then to just see where that intersection ends up, the coolest things happen. And that's how I feel every time I get to connect with anyone on the podcast, especially you guys here today. And, I'm just so grateful to be able to hear your story and to be able to pass it along. And that being said, I'm super curious. We've got Florida on the map, we've got Texas on the map. And I know we're mentioning slow and steady wins the race here, but when it comes to expansion, where are you looking to go next? Or let's say there's someone who's in Oregon or in Pennsylvania, can they still order from you and, have tea time by them?
So, um, with the expansion, we actually just sent some pallets out to Chicago. And now I think we're this week or next week, we're sending out some pallets to Seattle. We sent some samples to LA and New Jersey. And we have a distribution deal, and they're really helping us out, like just grow in general. Like they're very well connected in the beverage industry, and so they're like, oh, send samples here, send samples here. These guys want to pick you up. These guys want to pick you up, and yeah. So honestly, we're kind of riding this,
yeah,
slow
we're
and
slow and
steady.
steady.
Yep.
And anybody that wants to buy a tea time, no matter where they are, well, certain states can't, but most of the states, you can go on our website and order, and we'll have it shipped straight to your doorstep.
And if you're a store owner or anything and have any questions or want to order wholesale or anything, we have a thing on the website.
Yep. Become a wholesaler.
Become a wholesaler, or you can just email us direct, and we'll talk to you directly. So,
and like I said, you're going to be talking to either me or Brandon, not the assistant to the assistant. To the assistant. So, yeah. So
Tea
yeah,
time with the fam.
We are expanding. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, now I'd like to take it back in time just a little bit because you mentioned that you enjoyed, Brandon specifically, enjoys hanging out at kava bars, right? That's what kind of
Yep.
introduced you to some of, especially kratom. But that being said, what was it like for you going from consumer to business owner in this space, especially now that it's full circle where you're selling to kava bars?
um, I don't know. Honestly, the same. I mean, I go in there and like a lot of the I try to make like kind of like a friendship with my customers. I'll go in there and like I drop cases off at a bar, but I'll also hang out for 15, 20 minutes, hang out, talk to them, talk to the kava tenders and everyone that's there. It's almost the same. I just get to see all the kava bars now. I go to all of them now. So
Aw,
I'm just
that's
dropping stuff off and hanging out.
Yeah, I got a couple stores. I don't go to kava bars much, but I got a couple store owners that become, I think, good friends, acquaintances, whatever you want to call them. But every time I drop off, I'll hang out, 30 minutes, shooting shit with them, talking. So, we try to make friends with our customers for a few different reasons. One is great customer service. That one-on-one is awesome. And then two, to be honest, I mean, once you become friends with them, they're gonna push your brand, So
And we just like doing it to be. We just like people. So like
yeah, that too.
we just be talking.
That's sweet to hear because I feel like when I'm speaking to people about like wanting to do something in this space, but they're scared, like people who are in the discovery phase of it all, some of the fears that come up for people is like, oh, well, if I'm moving from one like position in the community, so to speak, you're just like when you're just one of the community, and then it's the same transition as someone who goes from community member to kava tender. Like they get behind the bar, they notice things change. Some people talk to them different. Some people, things, and then you move to management and things are different. So it's the same thing for people, like the same kind of fears come up for people when they're like, oh, well, I love hanging out in this space. Like, is it going to impact my ability to be here in a negative way? Like, am I going to lose my community because I'm like doing business? So to hear these examples of it's like, no, like you can still like be a part of the community. Like just because you want to monetize in a way that doesn't like you're there to help. Like you can do it passionately and do it in a way that helps the community so they don't push you away. But it is a common fear that I have heard from people. Granted, people don't like to outwardly admit it very loudly, but they definitely they fear missing that spot in the community. So, you know, all of that being said, um, if you had a magic wand and you could change anything about the industry, just the non-alc industry in general. You can pick anything at all, whatever pain point you have. What would you fix? Like, even if you can't do it yourself, even if you don't know how it's going to play out, right? What would you love to see fixed and why?
So going back to the community thing, people that are scared, I think is a good thing. I've known people that open up bars that were very well known in the community, and as long as you don't change who you are once you start opening up a business, I really don't see it being a problem. I just say just do it. You know what I mean? Like if you, people are gonna change the way they look at you and act around you because you own a part of the business or whatever, I would just change bars. You know what I mean? Like you shouldn't be surrounded by them anyways. That's how I see it. But
and get involved in the community. Like we did a for my son. We called Willie's for Jay, and we wanted vendors to come out and set up. Uh,
did a whole car meet.
Brandon's
Yeah.
friends, one of his good friends, with car accident something with the
Oh
in the
yeah.
hospital.
Yeah.
We did a donation for him. We also did the motorcycle one, the donation for the motorcycle, the very first
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So we try to
Charity.
donate where we can and be involved in the community. And if you do things like that, the community is they're not gonna look down on you. They're gonna look up at you like, oh, this guy, he's really trying to help the community and not just himself.
Yeah.
So,
That's a
and
good way to put it. Yep.
now going back to your question,
So my magic wand would be more laws and like solid laws and regulations and like a list of do's and don'ts when it comes to kratom because I feel like there's just not anything there and making it easier to market. Like you can't even say the word kratom on Instagram. You know what I mean? Like there needs to be like just laws and regulations that make it legal. And there's a lot of people making kratom businesses pretty shady, quite honestly, and ruining the market for the rest of us. And I think there just needs to be more of a
more
like
regulated.
more regulated. Yeah.
I hear that. There's nothing that can literally ruin your day, quite like consuming bad kratom from someone who didn't know how to first off order the good stuff, but two, didn't know how to educate you on serving size. That's one of the big ones that gets to me, where you're like, okay, well, I think I know how much I normally feel good on, but from one brand to another, it's not always like the same effect. Like you mentioned when you guys were going through all of the different kratom samples, some like didn't even make you feel an effect, and then others, it's all over the place. It's crazy.
And so going back to the kratom, since we're on the topic, and with us, when we get our kratom, we test our kratom, make sure it's good to go. When we send it out to the co-packer and we get our can, we now test the first, the middle, and the last can that comes off the run for anything like anything's salmonella, hard metals, the kratom itself again. So we test our stuff quite
Regularly.
yes.
Yeah. Because anything can just, you open the bag up and stuff can just fly in. You know what I mean?
So
Like,
everything's tested. So we make sure, and that's what back to your question. We wish it was more regulated, so that all the people that are just out there selling bullshit,
yeah.
and getting people sick or doing whatever, that wouldn't
And
happen.
people can buy capsules, like empty capsules, and get powdered kratom from the gas station and start making capsules themselves and then repackaging it and then go sell to smoke shops. Like there's no regulation. Like you're not supposed. I don't think you're supposed to do that. I think
No,
yeah,
probably
well,
not.
you're not supposed to do that, obviously, but like no, I mean like I just feel like there's not enough regulation, and quite honestly, I don't. I try to follow the AKA, the American Kratom Association, but still, even with that, it's almost like, can I, when at least when it comes to marketing, I don't know what I can market, like what I can say, what I can't say. Like it's just so,
We know one thing: you can't say the word kratom on any social media platform,
yeah.
which is horrible because you know kratom does have a bad name to it, but it also, if you keep reading and looking and investigating, you see that it has a lot of good benefits for it. And
And that's
so,
another thing. I can't like say, oh, drink tea time and it'll give you energy or it'll help your pain or help with arthritis. Like I can't say any of that. You know what I mean? Like there's literally on my can it says, um, damn, something about.
I tried to read it, but it's too small for
Yeah,
me.
I'm trying to read it too.
But yeah, we just wish it was more regulated. This way, we could market more. We could advertise more. So, uh, but yeah, that's answer to your question. More regulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that because it's hard to communicate your value and it's hard to communicate how much thought and intention you put into your entire formulation when you're not even allowed to talk about like those innovations. So it's like another kratom brand can sit right next to you on the shelf, and because of this whole like lack of freedom of speech in this area, because of the way that it's difficult, right? Because it's like on one hand, there aren't actually like a lot of rules that cause kratom to be very pushed down on social media. Some of that is very like it's an outside force pushing down on it, right? It's just like how like it's not illegal to say the word to just talk about kratom in your own experience, right? Like I'm not even talking about advertising at this point. Like if I was to just be like, "Hey, Instagram, just want to let you know I tried this kratom. It tastes really good. Like I'm not getting paid for this or anything. I'm just like even that person is penalized for just consuming something that is legal wherever they're consuming it. And
Exactly.
that
That's
is such a
crazy.
shame because, if we take a look at the DSHEA guidelines within the FDA that states, how we're allowed to talk about certain botanicals and supplements, it's like as long as there are studies that back up the legitimacy of whatever your statement is and you're not inventing something new, you're not just saying this snake oil will be the cure to everything. Like as long as you're saying something that's backed up by science, you're good. And the thing is, there's a lot of science that backs up kratom being very helpful. The
Right.
issue is when it comes to the education of the consumption process, people aren't consuming it appropriately. And honestly, I believe we talked about this in another podcast episode where it's like, yeah, people don't want to go to smoke shops to be picking up this product, but unfortunately, that's the main place where a lot of people go. We'd love to
Yep.
pick this up at a Sprouts or, at the Whole Foods. Like, we'd love to pick it up at other places that aren't traditionally known in society as a place that may or may not sell products that we don't understand, right? It's a shame because again, when we look at why is it so hard to say the word kratom when technically, if we look at the guidelines, like kratom's getting a way worse rep for seemingly political reasons. And at least from my perspective, you know, I know that kratom can be a little bit not helpful for some people if it's not consumed properly, but if it is consumed properly, I've literally seen it save lives countless
Right.
times.
Yep.
Yep.
Countless times. And yet, we're not allowed to talk about that in other capacities, which is a very big reason I made this podcast in the first place, so that we could talk about it and go in depth because it is a shame. It's a good product that can really help people. And, when you are actively doing extra steps, you do this extra R&D, you make sure that you have COAs, certificates of analysis, for every single run and product that you have. Like that sort of intention, it sucks that it's hard to talk about so that people can see the value and they're like, oh, that's why it's priced this way. That's why this is the best thing on the market. That's why it's worth getting it shipped all the way from Florida or wherever else the distribution centers are. So I totally see how this is a big magic wand moment for you guys because that is exactly how I feel. And personally, I'm always looking for opportunities within local and national government, whether government projects, whether they're looking to pass laws, whether there's hearings going on. I always try to put out there like, hey, any entrepreneur, watch your state, watch what's going on. If you are also in the kava and or kratom or any other fringe botanical, um, industry, make sure that you're watching what's going on in the local lawmaking process. Because if there's public hearings, like you should be going, like you should go and represent because you are someone with actual business. Like, hey, we've sold however many tickets, we've had this many people come into the shop, or we've sold this many cans. Like you have data, like that's real data of people that you've helped and done things for. So I just want to mention that because in the state of Arizona, um, that's what had to occur to put kratom in the food safe category. So here it's actually more protected than most states. And from like the health code perspective and making sure that there's like a higher quality product being served. Um, and that came from business owners going to the hearings and saying, "Hey, here's my literal sales data from my POS. I've literally served thousands of people, and I've had zero people contact me about having to go to the hospital because of the products we've served."
Right.
Like we are the scientists, like we're the ones in the field.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So if there's anyone out there listening who especially is trying to figure out where they are in this industry, what they can do to help, maybe the brick and mortar idea is too much. Maybe you're not interested in making your own CPG, but you want to make a difference, make some change. I know, at least from where I'm standing, that there are plenty of opportunities for that education. So when we talk about being consultants, for example, it's a lot more than just helping businesses. You're helping the community understand. You're helping government agencies understand and, everyone in between.
Yeah, and
So,
that's another thing. I mean, I don't really. We actually just hired a social media girl, but I don't really go on Instagram too much. But if anyone's got any questions, they can DM the Tea Time account, and if I see it, I'll answer it. You know, what I mean? And if I can't answer it, but if they have any questions about starting the business or how it is being in the Kava and creative community, we'll answer questions. You know what I mean?
hmm, that's so sweet. Thank you for being a resource and for sharing your wealth of knowledge with the community here. All of that being said, we are unfortunately coming to the end of our time. So I'd love to hear and I'd love to have you share with the audience any other fun projects that you have going on at tea time? What other things are coming out that you want us to know about?
So we launched a hoodie, and what we do is we try to drop every few months. We're gonna try to get it to every month, but right now it's starting small. A very limited drop. So right now we're just doing hoodies and hats. We have a drop coming up soon. I don't know how soon, but we're trying to get the marketing and stuff down for it. But we're gonna start just very limited, cool designs on shirts, hats, hoodies. Like we want to do everything. And it'd be like a Saturday, like 6 p.m. You have to get on the website and order, and you got to be fast, or else it's gonna sell out. Like that's the type of merch
Because
we're
it's gonna
trying
be
to
one
go
and
to.
done. Once we get one design and it sells out, we're never using that design again.
Yeah.
So
So
if you get a hoodie you like and there's only 30 of them or 50 of them or 100, those are the only ones that are ever going to be made from tea time.
yep. So we're trying to all come out with a whole merch line, um, and then maybe some more flavors. We've been talking about it.
And a kava
So
shot, not a kava shot, sorry, kratom shot.
Kratom Shop's been in the talks too. So we don't know, but the only thing we know for sure is hoodies.
Yeah, because
So
we actually have got them in. We got them in. We're just trying to figure out how to market it now.
yeah, so we want to start promoting it and
We want to do it
stuff,
right.
and you'll see on Instagram. That's what we mainly use is Instagram when they're gonna drop and how much they are and everything. So
Hopefully, this new girl we hired get us on TikTok and
yeah,
uh, whatever else. We're leaving it to her.
yeah,
That's awesome. I can't wait to rep these awesome merch designs that you come out with, all of the things that are coming in the future. I'm genuinely just such a big fan of the brand and both of you. Thank you, Brandon and Steve, for being here and just sharing your wealth of knowledge with us today.
thank
Thank
you for
you.
having us.
Yes, thank you, Marina. Nice meeting you. And thanks for having us. Always a
Yeah.
pleasure. Everyone want to see it again, let
Yes.
us know. Yeah.
If you are listening to this episode and you'd like to learn more about tea time, put it in order, have a conversation, you can take a look at the description and you will see both their website and any of their like social links. If you have any other questions, anything else that came up from this conversation, go ahead and send me an email, hello@marinamars.com, and I got you. So as always, if you need anything, just let us know.